Hey, Sean. Can you kind of just give us a little bit of a progress report, how things are going now for a couple weeks with Matthew Stafford and how he's doing integrating into the offense?
You're already just cruising right now, huh, Lindsay?
No, we this is our new office. We're in our cars. We don't even have a table with you guys anymore, Sean.
What the hell's Artist doing? All right, no, he's done really well, Lindsay. It's it's still really early in the process. We've gotten a few weeks of worth of work on the field, but things come to him quickly. He's got so many experiences to draw on. But if you were to say, through 3 weeks now of being on the field, he's done outstanding. He's only going to continue to grow, and we're going to continue to get better. And we'll use next week to really finish up the right way. We'll have a little bit of time before we get cranked back up, and we report on July 27th for those vets.
And then, Sean, specifically, obviously talking about Cam Akers here, but for a running back going from year 1 to year 2, what do you think? Where do you think a running back typically can make the biggest leap, and where do you think Cam's going to make the biggest leap?
Yeah, I think it's just in the detail and what, his job entails every single snap, Lindsay. The biggest thing that, you would talk about, he's got great natural run instincts. He's really talented as a pass catcher. It's the nuanced understanding of where you fit in some of the protections when the back's involved. But I think it's just continuing to become more and more complete. He's got the skill set. He's capable. We really feel the same way about Darrell Henderson as well. And so under Coach Brown's leadership and guidance, I expect that group to really grow, and been really pleased with some of those other backs as well. With Jake Funk's come in and done a really nice job, and Raymond Calais is showing that he got some valuable experience in the system, even though we picked him up late in the year last year, or, after training camp.
Jordan?
Hey, Sean, kind of along those lines too. I know that everything's kind of against air right now, but wondering if we could get a little bit of a health update on Darrell Henderson and Terrell Lewis. Just noting them working to the side with trainers a couple of times.
Yeah, they're making good progress. Darrell has gotten out and started to partake in some individual drills, which he said to me on the field today, he's feeling better and better. We expect him to be full speed by the time training camp rolls around, and not exactly sure where Terrell's at right now.
And then in an offense that's so predicated on timing, specifically between quarterback and receiver, other than reps, which I know is the number one thing, but other than taking those reps, how can receivers and the quarterback establish that sort of innate understanding of the timing of each play?
I think just time together, being able to talk to one another about how they see things. We have a structure of our offense, but I think you want to allow for some flexibility with the players' feel. And I think, seeing you, I know you asked Cooper the same thing yesterday, and I thought his answer was exactly on point. It's just those guys getting a feel for one another, talking through things, making sure that they see it through the same lens. But the repetition is the most valuable thing, Jordan, and then being able to spend some time watching film together. If it's not on the field in those physical reps, it's being able to take those mental reps or have that dialogue to establish that rapport amongst one another.
And then with Matthew being so experienced, and I know we talked about this a little bit before, but because he's able to freestyle, might be the wrong word, but freestyle a little bit at the end of plays. And how do receivers start to develop that feel for things that can happen even after the end of structure within the play?
Yeah, I think it's having some parameters on the urgency that's required when things do break down. When you talk about how you still want to have the field distributed on some of those scramble type of mechanics when things break down, and that can occur in the pocket or if you break contain outside the pocket. But I keep going back to it, and it's repetitive, but the reps are the biggest thing. And then the dialogue amongst one another. I think there's so many things that go on in the absence of coaches in between those white lines that is so beneficial. And the best teams that I've been a part of are where the players lead it. That's where you have a chance to be great. And we've got the guys in this building to be able to do those things. We've got to do it every single day. But I think Matthew's just natural ability to communicate with the receivers, the tight ends, the backs, even just listening to the dialogue that's gone on between he and the offensive lineman. That's a valuable thing. And that's sometimes where you're best to say, give them a little bit of a guidelines and then get the hell out of their way.
Thanks, Sean.
You're welcome.
Kevin?
Hi, Sean. Building on Lindsay's question about Cam Akers, assuming he does take a step forward from year 1 to year 2, and assuming he's healthy, what are the ways that you'd be able to use him more or differently?
Yeah, I think all the ways that you would want to be able to use a running back that doesn't have any limitations. That's, hey, number one, you got to be able to play on all 3 downs. He's obviously a great runner, but he's got ability as a pass catcher coming from the backfield. We can displace him, put him in the slot or in the outside receiver location. And then, how good are you going to be? He's got the toughness to be able to stick his face on people and in the blitz pickup phase, but understanding where you fit and being able to just kind of detail up every single snap. But there's not any limitations, but we'll see how it comes to life. But I think it's about the consistency, snap in and snap out. And, that really remains true for any position that you're talking about. You want to see that consistency show up. You guys hear me say it all the time. That's the truest measurement of performance. But the detail, the focus, the concentration that's required from one snap to the next, making sure that the first snap is the same as the 60th or the 30th. And that's where I think Cam can really separate himself as one of the better ones in the league to do what he's doing.
And then, since health was one thing that held him back last year, is there something that the team can do to I don't know, try to prevent that this time? Seems like those injuries, though, weren't like fitness things or anything.
Yeah, I think he fell on the ball awkwardly against Philly, where you end up breaking a couple ribs. So I think what you do try to do is make sure that you're using Reggie and his group's guidance to try to implement sound foundational plans from a sports performance perspective to really, prevent some of the, the muscle pulls and some of those soft tissue injuries. But then there are some things that are just freak accidents that occur. And, I'll tell him when he gets in traffic, move the ball so you don't fall on it.
A lot of people might look at this offense and say, well, it revolves around Matthew Stafford and the passing game. But how important is it for Cam to take that step forward?
It really is, Kevin. Any of the best offenses have the ability to beat you, whether you want to throw the football or run it. You're not, really, you want to have some versatility. You want to be good in both phases. You want to be able to try to dictate the terms. And, that's the goal. And any offense that I've been a part of that's done some really good things, they're complete. They're efficient, they're explosive, but that's not exclusive to just the pass game. That's both the run and the pass. And that enables you to be able to move the ball, maintain possession, or score a bunch of points. And that's what the best offenses do. And that's exactly what we're, striving to try to do.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Claudia?
Yeah. Hey, Sean. It sounds like the players are adapting well to the new special teams coordinator. What have you seen from him in special teams?
Yeah, Coach D. Camillus and Coach Stukes have done an outstanding job. They're great communicators. You guys see them out here. They have great energy. There's an urgency about the way that they work, and there's a system that they've had a lot of success wherever Coach D. Camillus has been. And you see Coach Stukes, who's been a coordinator, and he and Joe D are very familiar with one another. I've been so pleased with those guys. I'm really excited about where we can pick up once we finish off this offseason and we can actually really start getting some full speed 11-on-11 work. But been very pleased with them. I think any good coach is a really good communicator, and that's what you've seen from both of those guys. And I think it's going to be reflected in our play.
And listening to Johnny Hecker talk about the new Panthers and coordinator, he sounds excited about his role. How much of a leader he has become in special teams?
Yeah, he's been that for a long time, Claudia. And that goes, for even before when I was here. He's been a consistent guy. He's got great natural leadership ability. And then obviously the production follows. And so Johnny has been a great resource, a big time leader on this team long before I got here, like I mentioned. And he's going to continue to be that force as we move forward.
Thank you, Sean.
You're welcome.
Kurt?
Hey, Sean, earlier this week, we got to talk to this young man from Italy, Maximus Pritcher, and clearly he has the correct first name, being 6'7" and 315. Curious, is that how big of a long shot is that for a young man playing in Italy with the speed of the NFL, and have you had a chance to see him much?
Yeah, I've heard really good things. I mean, you see the movement and the natural athleticism. I would say, Kurt, especially for our offensive and defensive linemen, with just some of the restrictions and the way that we're operating right now, you're really evaluating these guys in their fundamentals and their techniques and their individual drills. From a competitiveness, when you go offense versus defense, training camp will really serve as the best opportunity to truly give Maximus, as you would say, a full evaluation. And so been pleased. He's got a great demeanor about himself. Really like the way he's got that good look in his eye, and looking forward to probably having a better evaluation when we can really physically see these guys compete amongst one another. But he's done a nice job with Coach Carberry and Coach Jones and Coach Cromer.
So my last thing is, since we talked to you last week, a lot more is opening up. We know California is opening up and training camp. Do you feel a sense of this could be a normal year?
Yeah, except for these stupid Zoom calls that I'm having to do with you guys. But yes, it is starting to feel more normal, and that's a good thing. You guys know how much I like the interpersonal interaction. It goes against a lot of the things, but hey, let's be safe about it. I don't want to get in trouble. I can't say anything these days without getting in trouble, but it is feeling more normal, and it'll feel all the way back to normal once I don't have to do Zoom calls as well.
Thanks, Sean.
You're welcome.
Gary?
Hey, Sean, in terms of the vets and minicamp, some of the guys that were not here today, have not been at some of the workouts. Will you expect all of your veterans to be there starting next week?
Yeah, I've talked to all these guys, and we've had great attendance. Just because you guys don't see them doesn't mean that they're not here. But there has been great dialogue. Do expect that, but there's always a couple things that I'll keep in house when I talk to guys that create a different circumstance. But we've had great participation. I've been extremely pleased with the leadership from our veterans that have really guided an opportunity for us to get a great month worth of work in person. And next week will represent the finality of that.
So if one or some of those guys aren't there, it's not necessarily going to be a penalty for them if they've communicated with you and you agreed that they don't necessarily have to be there every day.
Yeah, it is technically the mandatory mini camp, but I would never pigeonhole myself into saying one way or the other. I have, conversations with all of our players, and I'm a pretty understanding guy on certain situations, and I don't anticipate anything that would be out of the norm or unexpected next week. Everybody, with the exception of a couple guys that I'm not going to get into, I've talked to, but I expect, just like what we've had throughout the whole offseason, great participation.
Okay. Cooper was saying the other day that he didn't miss that last game because of bursitis. It was because of a degloving injury, which sounds a lot more serious. How concerned are you about him kind of going forward, having had a major knee surgery on one side and now experiencing this? Do you guys have to do anything extra special in terms of managing his reps and whatnot as you move forward?
No, no. He's a guy that he takes as good a care of himself as anybody. The freak injury to his knee a couple years ago, you hope to try to avoid those as much as possible. But what did you call it? Degloving?
Yeah, that's what it is. That's what he called it. Yes.
Would have been nice for Reggie to tell me that back then too, huh? No, he'll be all right. He'll be good. The old degloving. It's a fancy way. It was a variation of damn bursitis too.
Okay. Well, finally,
you always got something good for me, Gary. You never let me down, man.
Finally, Sean, I know you said last week, and even now, I know with no contact, you can't make full evaluations, but are there any members of that rookie class that have jumped out at you in the 2 weeks that you guys have been on the field here?
Yeah, it is difficult, Gary. I mean, especially those guys on the fronts, kind of like I've mentioned. I would say this, Jacob Harris is a guy that has definitely stood out. Just his overall speed, athleticism, you kind of feel him on the field, but that's been in some of the limited 7-on-7s and kind of just running routes on air. And, that's not how you really play football. So there is a real variance when you actually include the offensive defensive lines, but just the overall athleticism and some of the things that he and Wes have been working the last couple of weeks, and his improvement he's somebody that comes to mind if you were to point out anybody in particular.
Thanks very much.
You're welcome.
All right, last four here. We got Omar, Nick, Maria, and Stu.
Hey, Sean, how's it going, man?
Good. How you doing, Omar?
Yeah, pretty good, pretty good. It seems like Andrew Whitworth is beating up on Father Time pretty good here. You know, we've seen quarterbacks and kickers play into their 40s, over the years, but, a physically demanding position like offensive line. Just what have you seen from him this spring in terms of that specific regard as, he's about to turn 40 this season?
Yeah, he's feeling really good, Omar. Obviously, Andrew's been a huge instrumental piece of what we've done over the last 4 years. And the crazy thing is, we got a lot of flack because it was unprecedented for him to receive the contract that he did at the age of 36. He ends up playing out that 3-year contract, and here we are 2 years later, and he's still a foundational piece of a lot of the things that are good about the Rams. So it's the damnedest thing I've ever seen, but he's doing a hell of a job. Love being around him. Love the energy that he brings every single day. That kind of enthusiasm and just overall zest for life and for the game is contagious to his teammates, and love having him out there. I mean, you see what he does as far as organizing some workouts with the offensive linemen. He's turned his garage into a gym that, he could start charging guys, but that rapport and all the things that he brings is so valuable for us. And he's been such a great sounding board for me as well as a head coach.
In your experience in the NFL, is there maybe a similar player that you sort of marveled at given the age and the production that he's been able to provide the way Andrew has with you?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to, I haven't been doing it too long, but in terms of the demands that position, asks of those guys, snap in and snap out. And when you just watch what the physical toll that it takes on these guys' bodies, I think he is one of one. It's a pretty unique thing, and you can't have anything but respect, and glad he's on our team.
Thanks, Sean.
You're welcome, Omar.
Nick.
Hey, Coach, how's it going?
Good. How you doing, Nick?
Doing great. Just how imperative is it and how much of an advantage is it, especially for the offensive rookies, to have a guy like Matthew Stafford coming in this early, being able to kind of set the tone and kind of show them things in addition to what you're showing them and your staff is showing them as well?
Yeah, it's so valuable, Nick. I mean, there's nothing like, you talk about Whitworth on the previous question, but then Stafford, these are guys that have done it at a high level, and they are truly extensions of the coaching staff, but they're the ones out there really doing it. And when you have guys like that, that is a thing that helps you sleep better at night as a coach. And there's just a natural poise that he has. I know we haven't played in any games or any real stressful atmospheres and environments, but there's a feel that he has where, man, this guy's got a lot of experience to draw on. He's got just such a steady demeanor that I think will rub off on the other 10 guys in the huddle with him. And it's going to be a real positive thing for us, and for his influence on those rookies, just the communication, the feedback, that's invaluable, especially coming from the position that naturally requires, so many different leadership things with the amount of information that you're getting communicated every single snap.
Thanks, Coach.
You're welcome.
Maria.
Hey, Sean, how you doing?
I'm doing good. How you doing?
We're doing good. We're doing good.
Good.
Talking about Van Jefferson, we see him getting a lot of work out there. What are you seeing in his growth from year 1 to year 2? Again, obviously it's very early, but where do you sort of see him?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked about him, Maria. Van, I have always been a huge fan of Van Jefferson. Going back to evaluating him coming out from Florida, even what he did back at Ole Miss. And then I just think he's got special receiver traits. He's got a great ability to be able to work edges and separate, good aggressive hands. You can see he's really put the work in. He's come back, establishing himself as a legitimate dude, a guy that we're counting on from big things. And I think the future is so bright for this guy. I've been very, very pleased with Van Jefferson, Maria, and very excited about what he's going to do to finish up this offseason. And I know he's going to come back and hit the ground running in training camp, but we're expecting very big things from Van Jefferson. He has been a major bright spot this offseason and somebody that I'm extremely excited about. And I know I share that feeling with the rest of the coaches.
Do you feel like the game is going to slow down for him this year, especially, or?
I think so, Maria. And I think, he's always had such a natural feel for the game. I mean, when you see what his dad has done throughout the course of his career, and now he's a successful coach, it looks like he's grown up around the game. The game just makes sense to him. He understands how to work edges and set people up. And then I think now when you can really just say, okay, when I hear the huddle call, I can automatically just get lined up and let my ability take over. And that's when I think you're going to see the best of Van Jefferson, because he's got those traits and characteristics that you look for. He's only going to get better and better. And I think he's got some toughness and he's got some real competitiveness, just like his pops that made him so special.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And we'll wrap up with Stu.
Hey, Sean, just wanted to ask you about Bobby Brown and Robert Rochelle, obviously with the caveats that you mentioned that this isn't necessarily a live training camp-like setting, but what have you seen out of each of those guys and what do you like about their approach so far as they've gotten acclimated and gotten the chance to get some on-field work in here over the last 2 weeks?
Yeah, I really like the way that Bobby has worked with that defensive line group. Coach Henderson and Coach Dixon do a great job of really challenging them. I like the attention to detail that Bobby's displayed in those drills. And then I like what I'm seeing from Rochelle in terms of the improvement where you do get a little bit better feel for some of our perimeter skill players when you're seeing, routes, you're really seeing these guys play coverage concepts, his understanding where his play ops fit within the different coverages that we're activating with him playing that corner spot. And he's gotten more and more confident over these last couple of weeks since we've actually been able to compete against one another. Offense versus defense in those 7-on-7 settings. So the movement, the body type, all those things are there, but I've really liked the improvement that I've seen from him, taking Coach Morris's coaching, Coach Evero and Coach Cooley as well. So been pleased with those two young guys and looking forward to seeing them wrap it up the right way next week as well.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
All right, that's all for today. Thank you.